So the people that I learn from, they say, look, I'm not an expert. What I am is just an educated consumer. And a lot of times, like for instance, you can go into your regular supermarket and then you can go into something like Whole Foods, right? The gigantic chain everybody knows about. And you can literally be purchasing the same product at Whole Foods with a huge markup than you would at just a regular, like a Winn-Dixie or something like that. And what they call that is they call it green packaging. So the same company will repackage the same product and they'll put something in there like, instead of high fructose corn syrup, it'll say brown rice syrup, organic brown rice syrup. Right now, you sit there and, okay, I've never drank or I've never seen organic brown rice syrup before, but you're buying it in Whole Foods and it says organic and you trust the product, the company, and the packaging, right? But what it is, it's green packaging. It's the same product. They're just selling it at a different store at a higher markup. And that's where the education comes in, right?
Chris,
that's where the education comes in.
I had somebody ask who's speaking. So why don't we just give a little bit of background to put some context around our conversation? Because this is important that I want people to listen to you because when it comes, you are still partially working. So that makes you the best body worker in the world, in my opinion, still working.
I appreciate it.
And you're an author. So let's go through a little bit of that so people know exactly who you are.
So my education on nutrition actually began before my education on fascia. All right. Like I said in our previous live, I was having major energy problems. By the time I was like 24, 25, I was allergic to so many different types of foods, more specifically like wheat and gluten and dairy. Anytime I ate something like that, it absolutely crushed me. At the time I was living in Hawaii, and out there, rice or macaroni salad is really huge. And if I had any of that, my God, I would want to take a 2-hour nap after lunch. And I was just like, I'm 24, 25. I'm deadlifting close to 500 pounds. I'm clean and jerking 275. I can run damn near a 5-minute mile. What is wrong with my body? I just didn't understand. And what it all came down to was just food. Was the right type of food. I was eating taro pancakes and orange juice every morning for breakfast. Things like that. And I bought it just because it tastes good. So I set out to read as many nutrition books as I could. And when I was about 6 to 10 books in, I realized they were all saying the same thing, but in a different way. And everything that they said to try didn't make any sense. And it didn't work on me or my energy systems. So the last book that I read was The Metabolic Typing Diet by William Walcott. And he starts talking about how through his diet structure, he's found out that certain people don't do well on certain foods, that food is medicine. Food is not what gives us energy, okay? And if you're putting the wrong type of food in your body, then you're going to get the wrong type of energy, or literally zero return, right? It's like putting diesel in a gasoline engine. The car might run a little bit, but it's not going to be running very well, right? So when I started to eat unconventionally, I guess you could say, and this is around 2003, 2004, so nearly 20 years ago, my goodness, my energy was so abundant. I didn't need coffee anymore. I didn't want to take a nap after every meal. I didn't want to take a nap after work. I was literally like the Energizer Bunny. And I'm looking at what I'm eating and I'm like, but bacon is supposed to be bad. Eggs with the yolk is supposed to be bad. You're not supposed to be able to eat this much fruit in one sitting and not have your blood glucose shoot up through the roof and get diabetes. So everything that was unconventional, my body agreed with. I had energy and I felt good and I was sleeping well, but everything that I was eating according to mainstream media And what they said in the magazines wasn't really doing it for me. I had no energy. I didn't like how I looked. I had a layer of inflammation and fat on my body. And, I literally wanted to take a nap most of the day, even though I was getting 8.5 hours.
And what were you doing then? Were you in clinical practice by then, or were you you were working out, CrossFit? What was your lifestyle like?
So I was actually a graduate assistant strength conditioning coach with the University of Hawaii. So I was graduate. I was learning. I was getting my master's in kinesiology at the time. And this is right around when I was graduating. So I was ready to go into the workforce. I think I was around 25 years old, ready to go into the workforce, and pretty much like the prime of my life. And I had no energy, no libido, nothing like that. So
and then when did you get into clinical practice? Like when you started working with doctors or physical therapists? What year?
Oh, I would probably that's way later, 2014, 2015.
So there was that period of time where you're an athlete and you're learning about diet, so that you could become a better athlete and feel better in your life.
Right. And what it comes down to, I think you've said it many times, that food makes bodies.
Yeah.
Right? Food makes bodies. So it was my ignorance. At the time, I was doing a low-fat, high-carbohydrate diet, and that just wasn't working for me. When I changed around, and I don't want to throw this term out, but I'm going to say it just so people understand it a little bit better. When I went keto-ish, okay, not full keto where, it's cheese and steak all day and they have a cheesecake for
generally in that realm of keto.
Right, right. It was keto-ish. And then when I got into my 40s, it really started to become more about balance. Eating the same amount of fat, carbohydrates, and protein, a little bit more protein, and then the same amount of fat and carbohydrates, kind of balancing everything out was where I started to understand the sweet spot is. And for most people, when they go to a hyperpolarized diet like carnivore or vegan or keto or, even pescatarian or Mediterranean, they do okay for a while. And then all of a sudden they wake up and they slowly start to not like how they feel, or they slowly start to break down more and more in their body.
Well, that's actually a good point, because if my body's functioning right, the reason why people switch diets is because they don't like how they feel, and usually it's digestion or energy.
Right.
And then they go to a hyperpolarized diet. The latest one is carnivore, but carnivore is basically Atkins diet. And so,
and one of the scary things, Gary, is that we are finding through the research that people are starting to develop meat allergies.
That's coming for sure, because we did this. Like I was a bodybuilder. I competed in the 80s at the national level. So we did that because we didn't have supplements. We had desiccated liver, egg ablum, and we had a multivitamin, and that's it. And then when we started going towards the pros, we had steroids. That was the only supplement we had.
Right.
So
a little bit of
so we had
a little bit of insulin too.
So we didn't have the tools that we have today, but the meat allergies, and people, like what's happening right now is that we're testing blood sugar of people that have been in a carnivore diet and finding that their blood sugar is spiking, meaning that somehow, some way, and most people just don't test, somehow, some way, the body's converting, and the body can convert any food into anything it needs if it has the need great enough. And that's the human adaptation cycle. It's just that we get hardwired into these belief systems about what can happen or how it does work. So this journey, you were studying food for your own health, nutrition, and performance, and then you started to move into a clinical practice. Like you started working on bodies, and how did that transform into that area?
Well, you see a lot of people having neuromuscular pain
Yes.
due to stress that organs are under from the food that they are consuming. Couple that with emotional stress, couple that with job stress, with stress from the family, and you're kind of like dragged down into this whirlpool, this spiral, right, of pain. And a lot of people will come in and it's like, oh, you know, like my right side back and my adductor, they're acting up. And I'm like, well, this is your gallbladder and your liver meridian right here.
Yeah.
And sure enough, you know, we press into that area in the gallbladder and the liver right underneath that right rib cage, and they're sore and they're tender in there. And then later on, they're having like this uncontrollable rage that they don't understand. And I said that, you know, that's the liver and the gallbladder releasing right there. And then the next day they're like, oh, my back pain and my hip pain and my groin pain, it's no longer there, or it's very weak, like a 2 or a 3. So they come back and, you know, I do a little bit of soft tissue work in there and they're A-okay. So, you know, it was the evolution of, you know, okay, so I just want to look good and feel good. This is why I'm changing my diet. To then, oh, I created a lot of problems in my organs, and that's creating problems in my body. I'm not just working on muscle. I'm working with meridians. I'm working with, you know, I can do this, but if you go right back to the diet, to the Pepsi and the chicken wings and everything like that, we're going to have a problem again in 6 months. It's just everything's going to tighten right back up. You're going to jam up the liver and the gallbladder again, and you're going to be right back here. So you start to realize, I went through the whole evolution like we've talked about so many times of, you think you're just working on a piece of meat, then you think you're working on an organ, and then you realize that it's just an energetical exchange. And you suffered from that way worse than I did, working for so long at the Human Garage, gaining all that weight, you know, vomiting for days on end, even though you're not eating any food. And then for me, the 6.5 years that I did that full time, I mean, I worked myself into stage 2 adrenal fatigue and just absolutely, you know, just destroyed my liver, my kidneys, my gallbladder. I mean, everything was just...
You were headed the same direction.
Yeah.
Because at six years, at 6 years, I started getting this bump here.
Yeah.
And it was unexplainable. Like, there was no explanation. Couldn't see it on lab work. And it just looked like I was kind of fat right there. And I couldn't figure out what it was. It was my liver.
Yeah.
And it was swollen. And it was also holding in my solar plexus all the emotions.
Yep.
Well, it was happened around 8 years, between 8 and 9 years of working clinical practice. That's when the weight started coming on. And I used to go home and I had this band around here. I actually have a picture of me standing from the back, and you can see like a tightened band around there. And that's, of course, gallbladder, spleen, liver in through there. And because the liver out at the front, spleen in through here, and gallbladder down there.
Right.
And I could see this constant band around me. And then at the end of the day, I'd be like feeling pressure here, and I'd be burping and coughing and trying to clear the pressure. And I wasn't even, and so I went to a 1 meal a day, and I was still gaining weight, and there was no explanation for it. And I was testing myself with every test you can imagine. I was testing myself once a week.
Yep. Same, man. I was getting burping and coughing after I would eat. I would wake up in the morning, and as soon as I would stand up, I would just be burping, and I'm like, why is there gas coming up from my stomach? I never had the inflammation or the bump, but oh my gosh, man, there would be times where I would have that liver pain and then the gallbladder pain as well. And then, like you said, in the solar plexus, I would wake up anytime between 11 and 3, and Gary, it felt like there was a fire in my entire diaphragm, you know? And I'm laying there, my heart is racing, and I'm like, what is going on? And that's when I started to realize, you know, maybe 8 to 9 appointments a day is not very good for you.
Yeah. I mean, very few practitioners ever do that. They do 3 or 4. I was like, you know, 7, 8, 9 a day sometimes.
Yeah.
And then we were 2. it's just that, and for a while I could manage it with exercise. I could manage it, you know, with diet and exercise and moving. But then there was a point where it caught up to me, and I said that started around like it started edging around a little after the 6th year, around the 7th or 8th year.
Yeah, and it was frustrating because I was helping people with their bodily pain. I was helping people with their nutrition, and they were getting astounding results. And I'm like, what's wrong with me? I was absorbing everything from them, and I wasn't able to release it. I didn't have that downtime to release what I needed to. And, you know, I mean, it even started to affect my relationship with my wife and my daughter.
Yeah.
At the time.
I wasn't a good guy. I wasn't a nice guy at that point.